Welcome to my channel, and enjoy watching. What happens when the soldier they didn't want on the mission becomes the only reason anyone survives? Meet Whisper, the sniper who turned an ambush into a massacre. 25 shots, 0 misses, and a reputation that terrifies enemies across the battlefield. They told me to stay out of it. Just keep to Overwatch and don't do anything unless explicitly ordered, Command had said. You're not part of the op, Sergeant Nyla Rowe. You're support only. Support only. Funny how support only ended up being the only reason 8 elite operators made it out alive. It started just past midnight, beneath a blanket of fog rolling heavy over the pine woods of Corvin Ridge. Team Delta was on foot, 8 tier, 1 commandos slicing through the brush on a recon mission, standard intel sweep. I was 900 meters away, on an outcrop overlooking the trail they were ghosting along. My M110 DMR was snug on its bipod, breathing aligned with the beat of the forest. I wasn't even supposed to be here. Commander Jace Barrett had made it crystal clear in the briefing. Put someone else on the rifle. Anyone but her. His voice had carried over the planning table, thick with disdain. We need someone reliable. I'm the best shot you've got, I said evenly. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. That's the problem, he muttered under his breath. She knows she is. It wasn't about skill. It never was. I was 26. Too young. Too quiet. Too female. Too everything the old guard still didn't trust in a field where egos were bigger than battlefields. Still, Command overruled him. Said they didn't have a better asset within range. And so here I was, Nyla Rowe, Staff Sergeant, 47 combat deployments, 41 confirmed kills, 1 reputation no one wanted to talk about, but couldn't ignore. My call sign was Whisper, because when I moved, I did it like one. When I struck, it was over before anyone even heard the shot. They didn't see me coming. They never did. The plan was straightforward. Delta Team sweeps the corridor along the Corvin Ridge Trail. I sit high with eyes on, provide overwatch. No shots unless called for. In and out before dawn. Until things went to hell. It started subtle, too subtle for anyone but me. A movement, just wrong enough, on the edge of the tree line. Not the team. I confirmed positions. Something else. Then another flicker, far side. Then stillness. I've hunted long enough to know that predators make noise. It's silence you watch for. That space where sound should be but isn't. Delta Actual, this is Whisper, I said, voice low in the calm, hold position. You're walking into an ambush. There was a pause. Barrett's voice crackled back through the headset, skeptical and clipped. Negative. No signs of enemy presence. Trail's clear. Trail's bait, I replied. 30 hostiles. Closing in around you now. Another pause. Then, we're not seeing that. I bit my lip. This wasn't about what they saw. It was about what I knew. And then it happened. A thunderclap of earth. A pressure plate mine. One of our guys vanished in a flash of flame and dirt. Gunfire erupted from every direction, tree trunks exploding with ricochets and splinters. Contact! Contact! Multiple casualties. Someone screamed over the radio. I zeroed in. 3 enemy shooters lit up the Delta position from the northern slope. I tagged one. Breath in, squeeze, breath out. A quiet pop from my suppressor. The man dropped. Another shifted into my sights. Down. Again. I didn't wait for permission. I didn't ask for trust. I just worked. Because when the jungle erupts and men are bleeding, what matters isn't your gender or your rank. What matters is who can put bullets in the right places before it's too late. Barrett's voice came back, panicked now. We're getting chewed up. Where the hell is support? Support's here, I said. Stay down. Let me work. I moved between firing positions, calculated angles, wind, distance. Every shot I took, I counted. 3, 4, 5. The pines echoed with muffled coughs of my rifle, each one erasing a threat. And somewhere between shots 6 and 7, I stopped being support only. I became something else entirely. To be continued. They say adrenaline sharpens everything. But for me, it does something stranger. It slows it all down. By the time I'd reached my 8th shot, the forest had turned into a chessboard. I could see the whole battlefield from up high, where the enemy was clustering, how they moved, what they'd trained for. They hadn't trained for me. Whisper status? Control barked in my ear. 8 down, I said, adjusting my elevation slightly. Still 20+ hostiles active. Delta's pinned. We'll lose them in 10 unless I keep bleeding their numbers. Barrett's voice cut in again. You can't keep this up alone. We need air or QRF now. I could hear the weight behind his voice. He was still clinging to old rules, the ones where support means waiting for someone else to save the day. Air's grounded. Control responded grimly. Weather fronts killing visuals. QRF's en route, but minimum ETA, 42 minutes. I checked my watch. 42 minutes was a lifetime. I keyed the comm again. Delta actual. I'm repositioning. Keep your men behind cover. Fire only when fired upon. Let them focus on the ghost. No reply. Just the thundering of enemy gunfire. Too many rifles lighting up the ridge below me. I exhaled slow. Pushed to my feet. Rifle still cradled. Shifted 20 meters west, picking a second hide I'd clocked earlier. I knew the terrain. I always did. When people spent their nights playing cards or watching movies back at base, I was poring over topography maps, imagining lines of fire in my head like a conductor plotting a symphony. I dropped prone again, reset my scope. Shot 9. Center mass. A leader trying to rally his men. Shot 10. Another RPG gone quiet. The wind shifted. I compensated on instinct. My trigger finger knew exactly how much pressure to apply to break the shot. I didn't hear the click anymore. I just felt the consequence. Shot 11. Shot 12. Where's it coming from? One enemy shouted, voice clipped in broken English. They were panicking now. That was key. Fear is a fog. It clogs the brain, slows reaction, makes people expose themselves in moments they should be hiding. I used it like a tool. Delta was moving now. Just inches, just to regroup behind better cover. Barrett's voice returned. No more barking. Just disbelief. They're falling back. Who the hell are you? Just the girl you didn't want watching your six, I said dryly. He didn't answer that. Shot 13. Through brush and moving target. I felt that one in my shoulder. A rough angle, but necessary. Whisper, control. Confirm shot tally? 13 confirmed, I said. Still tracking 7 more on southern flank. They're trying to flank Delta's extraction point. Copy that, control said. Can you stop them? I can try, I said. Truth was, I didn't try. I executed. By then, the enemy had lost their rhythm. They were scrambling, calling out false positions, seeing ghosts where there were none. I was up and moving again before they could fix my spot. Another 30 meters. Another angle. Another breath. 14. 15. That's when I heard it. An enemy squad leader calling to regroup. And I froze. Not because of the words, but because of the name. Shift south. The ghost's north ridge. Spread out. Flush her out. They weren't just reacting. They knew me. They knew me. Whisper. Control said slowly. We just intercepted comms chatter. One of the enemy units is referring to an American sniper on the ridge. Using your name. I swallowed hard. Copy. How the hell do they know you're here? Barrett asked. But I knew. This wasn't the first time I'd made a mess of a battlefield. Somewhere, someone had survived long enough to remember. Whisper wasn't just a call sign anymore. It was a warning. The moment my name hit their comms, the rules changed. This wasn't just a firefight anymore. This was a hunt. And somehow, I'd become the ghost story they passed around their camps. Whisper's real. One voice had said on the intercepted channel. She's here. I heard it again through the static. Fear dripping from every syllable. It should have rattled me, but it didn't. It grounded me. Because if they were afraid, they'd make mistakes. And mistakes were fatal in my world. Control. I whispered, keeping my voice low and even. How much time until QRF? 33 minutes. Air still grounded. Delta wouldn't last that long unless I made this battle personal. I started tracking south, weaving through the ridge, keeping my steps light, careful not to disturb the brush in a way that would catch the eye. I didn't use trails. Trails were for the dead. At a new spot, I dropped low, belly flat to the ground, and pushed my rifle forward. I found them. For enemy combatants moving methodically through the trees, trying to swing wide on Delta's south flank. Their pattern was clean, too clean for local militia. These weren't amateurs. Foreign mercs, maybe. Trained. But training doesn't beat instinct. And it doesn't beat experience. The lead man was checking angles, scanning the trees. He paused, as if sensing something. He was good, but not good enough. Shot 16. I aimed center sternum. He dropped soundlessly. Shot 17. The man behind him hesitated. I caught him mid-step. The other two dove for cover. Smart, but not smart enough. They didn't know I'd already adjusted for their positions. Shot 18. A leg. I didn't need him dead. I needed him loud. He screamed, alerting the rest of his team. Now they were the ones reacting. And every time they moved, I moved faster. Shot 19. Through cover. Bark splintered where his face used to be. Control, whisper. Southern flank is down. Delta can push to extraction if they move now. Barrett's voice was tighter, but no longer resistant. Copy that. Moving. I spotted Delta shifting under my glass, 6 of them still moving, 2 being dragged. They looked like hell, but they were still alive. My job wasn't done yet. Shot 20. A sniper in the back ranks. I spotted the flash of his scope before he saw me. His rifle never even fired. Enemy comms exploded in panic. She's still shooting. Back. Fall back. Even with the language barrier, fear translates. You hear it in the tone, in the rising pitch, in the way they say her instead of the sniper. My name wasn't just known. It was dreaded. And in a world where respect was usually earned with rank and size, mine had been carved one shot at a time. Whisper. Barrett came back on the line, voice quieter now. We're halfway to the extraction point. You're still in it? I'm not leaving until you're out. A pause. Understood. That pause said everything. He didn't know what to make of me anymore. But he knew I wasn't the person he dismissed in the briefing room. Not anymore. And definitely not tonight. I rolled off the perch and jogged low through the underbrush, repositioning yet again. I had 5 more rounds in the mag, and I didn't plan on wasting a single one. Because if tonight was the night I became a myth to them, I was going to make it unforgettable. The forest was shifting, subtle at first, then unmistakable. Enemy chatter broke down into fragments. Orders cut off mid-sentence. Their lines were collapsing, one sniper round at a time. I could feel it, even before I heard the crackle on comms. Delta actual to whisper, they're pulling back. A long silence. Then Barrett added, You did that. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Not because I was emotional. Because I was busy. Shot 21. Rear guard, falling back through the creek bed. Shot 22. A commander trying to regroup on the far ridge. The wind shifted again, this time harder. I adjusted. The trees up here whispered in ways people don't notice. The way leaves rustle at different angles. The sound of birds returning after a firefight. Those things matter. Those things save lives. 23. Shot through the thigh. Let the rest of them hear him scream. I rolled and crawled forward. My elbows were scraped raw, belly coated in pine needles and dirt. My rifle was breathing with me now, like it knew what I needed before I asked. I'd run out of range cards long ago. This was instinct. This was memory. This was training so deeply etched into me it might as well be DNA. Whisper, this is control. You've broken their advance. QRF is inbound. ETA 12 minutes. Copy, I whispered. Tell them extraction is hot. Delta is en route, but we've still got scattered enemy pockets. Understood. Down below, Delta's formation was limping but moving. I could make out Barrett now, one shoulder bloodied, dragging a wounded man behind a tree. They were still alive, still moving. Because of me. I don't say that with ego. It's just a fact. And facts are why I don't flinch when the job demands everything. My radio flared again. Whisper, this is Delta 3. I just caught movement on the western slope. 2 tangos, fast. They're trying to cut us off. Mark it. Grid Bravo 69er. About 200 out. I already had them in my glass before he finished speaking. Confirmed. Engaging. Shot 24. Shot 25. And like that, the path opened up. Keep moving, I said. You're clear. No one argued. Not anymore. I slung the rifle across my back and began my descent, staying to the shadows. My boots were silent in the wet leaves. The same boots they told me wouldn't last a real deployment. The same ones that had seen every ugly corner of the world since I put them on. I reached the edge of the LZ before Delta did. Took up a final position. Covered the open stretch where they'd have to cross. And then, I waited. Every minute felt like 10. I watched the tree lean for signs of movement. Breath even. Pulse steady. And then I saw them. Shadows becoming men, dragging their wounded through the brush. Barrett at the rear, still holding his own despite the blood soaked into his side. They made it to the clearing just as the rotors began to hum in the distance. The birds were coming. They were going to make it. All 8 of them. Because someone told me to stay out of it. And I didn't. The medevac birds touched down hard, rotors kicking up pine needles and debris into a miniature cyclone. I stayed low in the shadows at the tree line, scanning for threats even as the team boarded under the cover of rotor wash. Delta Actual, this is Whisper. LZ is secure. Last sweep shows no movement within a 300-meter radius. Barrett's voice came back over the channel. Copy. All personnel accounted for. For wounded, but stable. No Kia. His voice cracked just a bit. No Kia, he repeated. The rotors surged louder as the birds lifted off, tilting toward the horizon. As soon as the last man was airborne, I broke cover and stepped into the clearing. And that's when I felt it. Everything I'd been holding back, the tension in my jaw, the strain in my shoulders, the burning in my thighs from crawling through forest floor for hours, it all came rushing in like a wave. But I didn't let it show. Not yet. Whisper, this is Control. QRF has eyes on you. Stand by for pickup. I gave the thumbs up, then sat back on my heels and closed my eyes for a breath. Just one. Long and quiet. When the second bird touched down for me, the QRF team inside looked stunned. Not because I was alive, but because I was me. Staff Sergeant Rowe, one of them asked, helping me aboard. Yeah. You alone. I nodded. He glanced at my rifle, then back at me. Heard what you did out here. I just nodded again. No sense explaining. Let the numbers talk. 15 minutes later, we were wheels down at Forward Operating Base Merrick. By then, word had already spread. That's the thing about combat stories. They travel faster than medevac birds. As I stepped off the helo, 2 officers and a medic were waiting for me. The medic did a quick visual sweep before handing me a bottle of water. The officers? They just stared for a second, like they weren't sure how to start the conversation. I beat them to it. Where's Team Delta? Med Bay. Stable, one of them replied. You should clean up, Sergeant. I looked down at myself, mud-caked, blood-specked, arms scraped raw. My braid had half come undone somewhere along the ridge. I'm fine, I said. Just need a minute. They didn't push it. Instead, the taller officer, Colonel Rayford, spoke again, this time carefully. Commander Barrett is requesting to see you. I blinked. That surprised me. Right now? Yeah. Said it was important. So I went. The med bay was quiet. Fluorescent lights hummed softly above. Barrett was on a cot near the far wall, arm bandaged, shoulder stitched, fur in his hand. He looked up as I entered. No sneer this time. No skeptical glance. Just silence. Sergeant Rowe, he said, then paused. I owe you a lot. I stayed quiet. I wanted to hear what he had to say. I've led 19 operations. Been under fire more times than I can count. But what you did back there? He shook his head. I've never seen anything like it. Just doing my job, I said automatically. He smiled faintly. You know, that's exactly what the last guy said who saved my life. He sat up straighter, grimacing slightly. I was wrong about you. All the way wrong. People usually are, I said. Not bitter. Just true. He nodded. I requested your assignment to Team Delta. Permanent Overwatch. Every op. Every deployment. That made me pause. You're serious? As serious as the hole I nearly took in the back if you hadn't dropped that RPG. I didn't speak for a long moment. My pulse was steady again, my hands relaxed. But something deeper moved in me then. Recognition. Respect. Something I'd fought years to earn. You sure the brass will approve? I asked. They will, he said. And if they don't, I'll make sure they regret it. I didn't expect what came next. The day after the mission, I was called into a briefing room at the operations center. Thought it would be a standard debrief. Run through my logs, confirm my shot record, maybe sign off on the mission file. Instead, I walked into a room full of brass. FOB Merrick's command staff. A regional operations officer I'd only seen in photos. And a woman standing near the front in dress uniform. Her shoulders squared like someone who didn't just carry rank. She embodied it. She turned when I entered. 2 silver stars gleamed on her collar. Staff Sergeant Rowe? She asked. I snapped to attention. Ma'am. At ease, she said. I'm General Halima Yates. I flew in to speak to you directly. I wasn't sure what to say to that, so I said nothing. I've read the mission report 4 times, she continued, and frankly, I still didn't believe it. Until I spoke to Commander Barrett myself. She stepped closer. 25 confirmed kills. Single engagement. No friendly Kia. Enemy force shattered. SEAL team extracted from a full encirclement. Just doing my job, ma'am, I said automatically. She smirked. Funny. Commander Barrett said the same thing about you. The room chuckled, but I kept my face neutral. Yates circled to the table behind her and picked up a folder. You've been recommended for the Silver Star. Your marksmanship record is already being circulated through Joint Ops and the SOF sniper community. Some are calling it the cleanest engagement under open fire conditions in recent memory. That surprised me. Not the recognition. What surprised me was who it was coming from. Additionally, she said, flipping the folder closed, you've been denied the Advanced Special Warfare Sniper course 3 times. I'm correcting that. You report to the schoolhouse at Fort Harlan in 3 weeks. My breath caught. Ma'am, you'll attend as a candidate and graduate as an instructor. We need more shooters who can see a battlefield the way you do. She paused. And yes, before you ask, I know how male that world still is. But if you want to break it open, Staff Sergeant, there's no better crowbar than results. I was still processing that when the door opened behind me. Barrett stepped in, cleaned up, uniformed, stiff but walking. He came to my side and addressed the room. General, if I may. Go ahead. Barrett looked at me, his expression unreadable. I submitted the Silver Star paperwork myself. And not just because she saved our lives. Because I misjudged her. That turned some heads. When I saw her name on the roster, I wanted her pulled, he said. Thought she'd freeze. Thought she couldn't handle the pressure. He swallowed hard. I was wrong. Dangerously wrong. And I wanted in every damn report that she not only handled the pressure, she carried 8 of us out of hell with 25 rounds and no margin for error. No one interrupted him. No one could. He turned to me. Ro, thank you. You saved my team. You changed my thinking. I didn't know what to say to that. So I did what I always did. I kept it simple. You're welcome, sir. Yates stepped forward. Staff Sergeant, consider this your official invitation to the top of the food chain. Train with the best. Teach the next. Lead from the ridgeline. I nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. They gave me 3 weeks to decompress, but I didn't spend it on R&R. I spent it behind the rifle. Fort Merrick had a makeshift range deep in the woods, a patch of forest where distance markers were carved into old pine stumps, and the wind never blew the same direction twice. I camped there most nights, rifle in hand, logging shots at every hour of the day and night. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was preparing for what came next. When I reported to Fort Harlan, the gate guard looked at my orders twice. You're here as an instructor? He asked. Yes. He nodded slowly, then waved me through. Inside the sniper school compound, the air smelled like oil and gunpowder. Targets lined up at distances most people couldn't even see with binoculars. Instructors barked corrections at candidates. Most were male. Almost all were older than me. I was shown to a briefing room where the other cadre were waiting. They stood when I entered, not out of obligation, but out of respect. Colonel Adebayo, head of the Sniper Training Battalion, introduced me himself. This, he said, gesturing to me, is Staff Sergeant Tessa Rowe, callsign Whisper. She's not here because we're trying to check a box. She's here because 2 weeks ago, she turned a SEAL ambush into a clean extraction and took down 24 enemy combatants solo. I didn't look around to gauge their reactions. Didn't care if some thought I didn't belong. I'd heard it all before. Seen the smirks. The quiet disbelief. But not this time. This time, one of them stepped forward. Master Sergeant Pike, legend in the sniper community, gray in his beard and steel in his stare. He extended his hand. Heard of you, he said. Glad you're here. We shook hands. From that moment, I wasn't a woman in the sniper cadre. I was a shooter. One of them. The next few days blurred together. Training rotations, simulations, observation posts. I was expected to teach students how to read terrain, how to track without leaving tracks, how to fire cold bore at 600 yards and hit a target the size of a teacup. But they also let me show them my way. We set up a new exercise, ambush recognition. I walked them through the signs I'd spotted in the pines, how silence speaks louder than noise, how displaced brush tells you where men have crawled, how even birds give away human presence by what they don't do. A young candidate, Corporal Rivera, asked, how do you see all that when adrenaline's high? I smiled. Because adrenaline doesn't cloud you if you've made the chaos your home. He blinked at that, but the older instructors nodded. Pike clapped my shoulder afterward. You don't just shoot well. You think like the forest. By the second week at Fort Harlan, whispers had started. Not bad ones. Not dismissive. Just the kind of talk that happens when someone new shifts the foundation. Did you see her run the silent stalk course? She beat the timer by 4 minutes. She picked up 6 tells in that terrain map nobody else noticed. Guy said she once took a 430-meter shot through branches without losing accuracy. At first, I ignored it. Let the story grow on its own. But then Colonel Adebayo called me into his office. Staff Sergeant Rowe, he said, gesturing for me to sit. The Pentagon's requesting your presence. I blinked. The Pentagon? He nodded. They're holding a closed session review on sniper doctrine updates. Word of your operation spread. They want you to brief them personally. I kept my face composed, but something turned in my chest. Me, a girl from Arkansas, raised on venison jerky and hand-me-down boots, briefing generals at the highest level of command. When? 3 days. I'll have transport ready. I nodded. Yes, sir. As I stood to leave, he added, you belong in that room, Tessa. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. 3 days later, I stood in a secure conference room beneath the Pentagon. Flanked by analysts and generals, I pulled up satellite photos, heat maps, elevation lines. I walked them through every shot I'd taken that night with Delta, how I selected each target, how I repositioned, how I used enemy fear as a force multiplier. When I finished, the room was quiet for a beat. Then a Marine general leaned forward. Staff Sergeant, how did you stay composed under those conditions? I met his gaze. Because I wasn't thinking about myself, sir. I was thinking about the men getting shot at while waiting for someone to believe I could help. He sat back slowly. Understood. As I left the room, one of the younger analysts approached. My little sister's trying out for ROTC, she said quietly. I'm going to tell her about you. I didn't say much. Just nodded. But inside, I felt it, the shift. The ground moving under decades of assumption. Back at Fort Harlan, I returned to the range just before dusk. Rivera was still out there, sighting in on a steel plate at 700 yards. He stood up when he saw me. Ma'am, he said, I tried that branch shot technique you taught us. Nailed it. Good, I said. But don't call me ma'am. I work for a living. He grinned. That night, I sat alone beneath the pine trees, my rifle across my lap, stars starting to break through the dark. Not for the first time, I thought about where I started, my father's whisper in my ear the first time I lined up a shot. Don't pull the trigger unless you're sure. Don't shoot unless it matters. It mattered that night in Ravenhill Pines. And it would matter again. Because the world didn't change all at once. It changed one perfect shot at a time. A week after the Pentagon briefing, I got a package. No sender. Just a hard case stamped with military courier codes. Inside was a custom rifle chassis, carbon black with a burn-etched inscription along the receiver. S. Sergeant T. Rowe, Whisper. Guardian of Delta, 25-0. There was a folded note beneath it. You didn't just save us. You rewrote what we believe about who belongs behind a scope. This rifle is yours. Built with the specs from the one you carried that night. Consider it a thank you from Team Delta. P.S. You'll find the rest of us arguing about who gets you on Overwatch next. Guess we'll just have to take turns. Barrett. I sat with that case open for a long time, fingers tracing the lettering. Not because I needed validation, but because this wasn't about acknowledgement anymore. It was about belonging. I'd bled for that team, fought through every doubter's voice in my head, dragged respect out of men who'd rather have gone without support than accept it from someone like me. And now, they were fighting over who got me on their team next. Funny how war changes things. The next op came faster than I expected. Not Delta this time. Echo Squadron, up near the borders of Kirvan Province. Intel suggested insurgents had reinforced a ridgeline and Echo was going to take a beating if they hit it blind. They requested me specifically. The op commander didn't hesitate. I was flown out with barely 24 hours to prep. When I landed, Echo's XO met me with a crisp salute. Welcome to Black Run, he said. We're told you're the ghost who doesn't miss. Just call me Whisper. He grinned. The legend's real, then? I'm real, I said. The legend's just good math. 2 days later, I was belly down on another ridge. Different trees, same setup. Cold wind, clean line of sight. And below, a squad of Echoes best crept toward a kill zone they didn't even know was there. Until I spoke. Echo Actual, halt. You've got contact ahead. 11 hostiles. Dug in near the tree lean at your 12. 2 more circling left. Copy, whisper. Adjusting. Do you have eyes on snipers? Affirmative. Both posted high in the rocks. Recommend you hold. I'll take care of it. First shot. Wind adjusted. 1 sniper down. Second shot. Longer. Through a crosswind. Second sniper slumped before he even knew I was there. Echo pushed forward under cover. And I watched from above, the way I always did. Unseen, steady, final. Another battle. Another group of lives pulled back from the edge. And another lesson, left behind like spent brass. If you dismiss a warrior because of their gender, their age, their build, you're not just wrong. You're risking lives. Because somewhere out there is a woman lying silent in the brush, watching over your 6. And when the bullets start flying, she doesn't flinch. She answers. The next time I visited Raven Hill Pines, it wasn't for war. The trees were quieter now. Spring had come and the brush was green again, washed clean of blood and muzzle flash. But I remembered every spot. The ridge where I'd taken the first shot. The tree I'd leaned against when I finally exhaled. The hollow where the medevac birds had lifted the last wounded from the earth. I wasn't alone. Barrett had come with me, arms still in a soft brace, but moving better than last time. He didn't say much, just walked beside me like he didn't quite know how to say what he was thinking. Didn't expect to come back here, he said finally. I did, I replied. He glanced at me. Why? To remember why I do what I do. He nodded, then gestured toward the ridgeline. You still see the battlefield when you look at it. I took a long breath. Always. We stood in silence. Then he pulled something from his jacket, a cloth patch, worn around the edges, with the seal trident etched in black. I know you're not one of us, technically, he said, holding it out. But you bled for us. You saved us. That makes you family. I hesitated, then took it. The back had something stitched into the fabric. To whisper, the one who watched. Team Delta. Always. I blinked hard. Barrett clapped me on the shoulder. Not bad for someone we didn't even want on the op. Not bad for someone who never asked for your approval, I said with a smile. He laughed. Fair. Back at Fort Harlan, I walked the firing line just after dawn. Recruits were already on the line, rifles braced, scopes up. I watched one young woman adjust her cheek weld, fumble with her wind call. I knelt beside her. You're reading the wind off the left side. What's the tree line telling you? She blinked. I don't know. Birds aren't circling. Look at the leaves, bottom side is showing. That's an updraft, not a crosswind. Adjust 3 clicks down. She nodded and fired. Hit. Her face lit up. That, I said quietly, is what matters. That night, I got a message from my father. Heard you brief the brass. Your uncle says you made a general look like a boot with your shot logic. Damn proud of you. I sent back. You always told me not to pull the trigger unless it mattered. Every one of them mattered, Dad. He replied. Then every one of them made you more than just a soldier. They made you who you are. I closed my phone and stepped outside. The stars were out, clear and sharp above the trees. Somewhere, far from here, someone else was walking into a firefight. Maybe I'd be there. Maybe I wouldn't. But I knew this much. I would never stop watching. Never stop protecting. Never stop being Whisper, the ghost in the pines, the quiet breath between life and death, the last thing the enemy never saw. Because sometimes, the most dangerous warrior in the world isn't the loudest. It's the one who waits, breathes, watches, and never ever misses. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.